If my calculations are correct, when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious. Welcome to Eat, Sleep, Nerd, a brand new podcast where you can check out, go AFK, and relax with us as we discuss all things nerd, comic books, video games, movies, TV shows, and anything else that gets geeks more excited than Captain Kirk looking for loopholes in the Prime Directive.
Plumb the depths of geek culture and latest nerdy happenings with myself, Jason Summer, and brothers Corey and Josh Winter. You'll be able to find links to all of the important resources we reference on this episode, as well as learn more about how to support this show at eatsleepnerd.com.
In this episode, we're diving back into the nerdy news as we discuss a wide range of topics, including the Batman Unburied podcast beating Joe Rogan on Spotify, Amazon's Jack Ryan ending after Season 4, CW officially moving forward with the Gotham Knights series, Bethesda delaying Starfield, and more. We also recap and discuss Paramount Plus's Halo Season 1 Episode 8 and Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 1 Episode 2. Welcome back to another Eat, Sleep, Nerd episode. I almost forgot the name of this podcast. We have a lot to talk about today, and we're actually going to be diving into a good chunk of news because we have not really talked about news too much in the past couple episodes because we just had so much to review and give our impressions on and discuss. But I really want to dive into news today, and we're gonna kind of actually talk about some news, just some announcements, but I also want to get into some rumors and speculation about some hot topics. How do you guys feel about that?
I'm totally on board. I think part of the fun when we started this was speculating and talking rumors, so I'm happy to get back to that.
All right, let's get into some news, starting with a topic that Josh actually brought to us, and I didn't believe it at first, but sure enough, it is news. It is confirmed. A Batman podcast has surpassed Joe Rogan to hit #1 on Spotify. Josh, do you want to give a little bit more information about this, or should I read the announcement?
No, I mean, I've got it. So it is I know it as like the radio shows from back in the day, you know, drink more Ovaltine and all that, but it's a, what are they calling it? An audio narrative, audio.
Yeah. So it's a podcast. So typically podcasts are just talk shows and stuff. This is actually like a scripted narrative audio drama.
Yeah. And it's really neat. I expected it to involve like narration and things like that, and it really doesn't. It's told entirely via sound effects and dialogue, and it's actually really, really, really cool. But yeah, I listened to the first episode the other day. I'm on the second episode now. I think the third episode just hit or is about to hit. And it's really neat. It's really cool. It's very different. So far, it's kind of playing as like an alternate universe sort of Batman. For example, Bruce has followed in the steps of his father and is a doctor, and they haven't really brought up the Batman too much yet, and so I'm sure there's a twist coming where we figure out what's going on there. But anyway, point is, it has blown up. It's gotten huge, and it is now the #1 show on Spotify,
which is significant because I don't know for general podcast audiences. So I come from a background in the podcast industry. I've been a podcast editor for the longest time. Joe Rogan has long since been known as an untouchable podcaster. His show is forever been known as the #1 show in podcasting. He has, on average, 11 million downloads per episode, and he's doing multiple episodes per week. And that's been consistent for several years, which is why Spotify actually bought out the exclusive rights to Joe Rogan's podcast a couple years ago. So the fact that a Batman podcast is able to dethrone him from #1, that is huge. Like, how many downloads is this podcast getting?
So, just real quick, and pardon my ignorance, I am familiar with the name Joe Rogan, but that's about it. I've heard it. I don't know. What is Joe Rogan? What is it?
What is Joe Rogan?
I don't know what is a Joe Rogan? So, he kind of talks about whatever he wants to.
He's kind of in the same vein as like Howard Stern.
Yeah, like the show is...
I was like a shock jock.
Kind of. I think he ends up being shock jockey just because he doesn't care too much. Like, I don't think he's trying to be shocking.
Okay.
But he's one of the few people, he's uncancelable.
All right, so it's not really like a geek nerd thing. It's not like...
No, he's just the single...
He just talks.
Yeah, he's just the single most popular podcast on the planet.
Until
Until Batman.
Until Batman.
Again, proving that Batman just might be, this is very hard to say, the greatest comic book character.
With enough
Well, hold
planning
on.
and preparation, he can defeat anyone, even Joe Rogan.
Hold on. Why did Jason just admit that Batman might be the most popular podcast or popular comic book character?
Well, it doesn't change how I feel about Superman.
Oh, okay.
But I'm also not going to ignore facts. Right now.
So do you think a Superman podcast would have the same popularity?
Honestly, no.
Yeah.
At this point, like I said in an earlier episode of Eat Sleep Nerd, it is difficult to bring a Superman story, into this contemporary, into our world right now. So unless it was something really special and had some really clever writing and smart writing, I think it'd be difficult. So and Batman, I mean, he's managed to stay consistently popular, kind of regardless of the platform.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Do you know who's voicing? I'm assuming Batman is a character in the show. Do you know who's voicing him? Is it someone that we know?
I can never remember his name, so forgive me. I'm sure it's something we can look up while I'm talking. He is an established actor. He is in Black Panther.
Winston Duke.
Yes, Winston Duke. And he slides into the role seamlessly. He does so well. And I think, and we may be incorrect, but I'm pretty sure he is the first black man to play Batman.
I believe that is correct. Yes. And forgive us if we're completely off base on that, but I'm pretty sure that's correct.
Yeah, to my knowledge, even voice actors, I believe he is the first non-white actor to play Batman. And like I said, he's doing a wonderful job.
Clearly, and audiences agree. So, yeah, I'm assuming we highly recommend this podcast. If you've never listened to a podcast narrative before, or if you have, this is a new one for you.
Yeah, episodes are like 30 minutes long. You can kill it on your drive to work. That's how I listen to mine.
Do we know if this is going to be a long series? Is this a
to my understanding, it's a limited series.
Okay.
Now I don't know how long that is.
I would have to assume because it's taken down Joe Rogan, it will probably get a second season.
I mean, yeah, it's. Let me rephrase. It's meant to be a standalone story. Whether or not they choose to do more stories following that is entirely up for discussion. And again, if you dethrone Joe Rogan, your ad revenue alone has to be insane. So I'm sure they would do more.
All right, so I actually want to move into a couple of Marvel MCU stories. So the latest one, this is relatively breaking news, and it was not really an announcement of sorts. It was actually just some sleuths that noticed that the Disney website had been updated with the premiere date of She-Hulk, one of the upcoming Disney Plus TV shows. It is premiering on Wednesday, August 17th. So this comes just a few weeks after Ms. Marvel debuts on Disney Plus, just a month after Thor: Love and Thunder hits theaters. Like, there's no shortage of MCU content right now. But anyway, how are you guys feeling about that?
I mean, I'm excited. I'm curious to see what's going to happen. I am a little concerned about how we have seen nothing about it. No images, no trailer, no... And like not even there's like a dearth of promotional material.
I kind of think it's because there's just so much else happening in Marvel content right now. Like, we just got Doctor Strange. They're doing promo for Miss Marvel and Thor right now. I think they kind of want to like let things settle before they start showing us She-Hulk.
They really haven't shown anything from Thor or Miss Marvel either. Like, we've gotten a trailer.
Yeah.
For Thor. I'm trying to think of another term than lazy. I almost feel like Marvel.
Disney's not even trying anymore.
Well, no, like, I mean, kind of like it's they're not even trying to.
Well, here we are.
I mean,
for free getting the word out about it. Yeah. So
I mean,
they
yeah,
got
maybe
us wrapped around their little pinky.
Yeah, maybe the point proves itself, but I don't know.
Well, also to Corey's point is that they've got so much going out that they can kind of only focus on one thing at a time.
Here's the next thing.
Right, here's the next thing, and then they hit that, and then let's start pushing.
I'm kind of thinking we'll probably start getting promo for it in June once Miss Marvel has at least debuted. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so
it just feels weird.
Quick little synopsis from what we know about it so far. Billed as a half-hour legal comedy, the series will reportedly break the mold of the usual MCU fare that gets released on a popular streaming platform. meaning that's meant to be more comical and irreverent than, say, Moon Knight. I'm reading this directly from thedirect.com. If the rumors are true, Jennifer Walters, played by Orphan Black star Tatiana Maslany, forgive me if I mispronounced that, might even break the fourth wall and address the audience directly, just as she did in many of her other original comic book appearances. So this might actually be kind of a more goofy Marvel show than we've really had so far.
Which is, I saw, I think Hawkeye was a little more goofy than we anticipated, and it seemed to work. And goofy isn't a good word. Comedic, it had more levity than we're used to.
It was lighter.
Yeah, exactly. And also, this show is going to have some heavy hitters as part of the cast. Tim Roth will be back.
I mean, Mark Ruffalo,
Mark
obviously.
Ruffalo will be back. And I think I've heard rumors that Matt Murdock, Daredevil,
I
will
read
be
something
making
about that. Yeah.
an appearance. So that's...
So are we thinking Matt Murdock's just going to start showing up in all these Disney Plus shows until he gets his own show back?
So remember, She-Hulk's a lawyer. I think it's hilarious if he's opposing counsel.
Okay, so he's
it actually makes more sense now.
Yeah. So he's a defense lawyer. Is she a prosecutor?
It depends on which run you're doing, but I do believe that she has been a district attorney.
That'd be awesome.
Or part of the district attorney's office.
I'd watch that.
And again, I'm just psyched to have Charlie Cox come back.
Yeah, any excuse we have.
I mean, I'm excited to see Mark Ruffalo. I love him in the MCU, and I don't think he's really gotten to do enough roles or enough appearances so far. All right, so moving on to other TV show updates.
Well, you are just barreling down this road. Take us with you.
We got things to talk about. All right, so moving into Amazon. Oh, this one hurts my heart. So Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan, starring and executive produced by John Krasinski, has an end date. We're going to only get 2 more seasons. It's ending after season 4. Man.
So because he has a fat Disney contract that he's got to do now.
So we're not going to talk about that because that's spoilery. We're going to try to keep spoilers out of the news segment. But yeah, potentially he has. I mean, he actually even has big deals lined up in his A Quiet Place franchise, and possibly other deals in the works.
He's a popular guy.
Yeah. So it's likely that these new deals are kind of, just he's realizing that his Amazon Jack Ryan series is not his priority. But it's a shame because I know maybe Josh, you did not like it as much, but man, I love this Jack Ryan series because I was finally going to get in the Jack Ryans of the movie universe,
Harrison
Ford, thank you.
Ben Affleck.
And Chris Pine and Ben Affleck,
Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, Alec Baldwin. That's one I always forget. They just, aside from Harrison Ford, who got, I think, 2 movies?
Yeah, he got 2.
They've only had 1 movie each.
Yeah.
And
it was never a true universe.
Yeah.
It was a soft reboot every time.
We never got to see the character become the character that we experienced in the novels. He started from this low-level CIA agent that ended up becoming the president of the United States.
Yeah, he was a huge character. He was the nucleus of the Tom Clancy universe.
Yeah, and I was really hoping that because it's an Amazon series, long-form series, we were going to finally get that ascension. So and it seems like we're not now.
So I'll say that, first, I mean, I love John Krasinski. He's a lot of fun to watch. I'll watch him in anything. But given that at this point, Amazon essentially owns the rights to the entire Tom Clancy universe, I feel like overall it's been woefully underutilized.
Yeah.
Because, there's so many properties that you could roll into that. And, there's been a rumored Rainbow Six game coming since forever. TV show, excuse me. So long that it was before the Rainbow Six games became what they are now, which is a travesty, I think, in my opinion.
That's a conversation for another day, because, yeah.
But yeah, think about it. You could have had the Jack Ryan TV show. You could have had the John Clark TV show. They're literally doing a spinoff with a character we haven't even seen yet on Jack Ryan, Ding Chavez, who was a founding member of Rainbow Six. So that would have led into a Rainbow Six. There were so many things you could have done. And so maybe if there's any small, tiny glimmer of hope, it would be that maybe by ending Jack Ryan, we can focus on building this bigger universe that maybe John Krasinski could still pop in and cameo as Jack Ryan every once in a while.
Yeah, so it has been announced that we are getting the spin-off show surrounding the Ding Chavez character. Nor it's still early production, but it seems like now with the announcement that season 4 of Jack Ryan's going to be the last season, they're just going to kind of like pivot and focus on this other character in the same universe.
Yeah. So I mean, there's still hope, and Krasinski has proven that he's happy to pop into things and get people excited. So, like I said, just because the show is ending, I don't necessarily know that that's the last time we'll see Jack Ryan.
Maybe not. I don't know. Jason, did you ever get into that Jack Ryan show? Were you in the movies?
No.
All right. Well, you're fired.
No, it's not one of my genres that are. It's not one of the genres that are in my favorites. I recognize that they're good and that they're popular. They're just not. That's really diplomatic.
All
I'm
right,
sorry.
yeah.
Anyway,
No, I mean that's fair.
No,
If it's not your type,
it's not my type. I think wasn't Air Force One that was supposed to be a Jack Ryan?
Oh, was it?
I think I could be wrong.
That I don't know.
Yeah,
it did actually kind of have the feel of a Jack Ryan.
Thing.
So
But I think something
happened.
happened.
It ended up being retooled.
And it ended up being retooled or something like that. I liked that movie.
Okay.
Get off my plane.
I've not seen Clear and Present Danger. Anyway, okay, moving on.
No, I mean that's fine. That's fine. Not everyone has to like it. All right, moving on into a couple other TV show related things. We just recently spoke about how the Arrowverse over at CW is dead, but CW is wasting no time getting other comic book related TV shows on the docket. The Gotham Knights has officially been greenlit alongside a couple other series on the CW. Gotham Knight is now the third DC-inspired series to be greenlit for the 2022-2023 season, in addition to the returning seasons of The Flash and Superman and Lois. Gotham Knights.
Josh, it appears that you have some issues with this.
So it goes to my one rule, and I feel like it's a simple rule, but TV executives seem to be doing everything they can to avoid putting Batman in the Batman shows. And it just drives me up the wall. And so here's yet another property where we're going to have a bunch of Batman characters facing off a bunch of Batman villains with no Batman. So thanks, pass. I'm out. I'm not even going to watch it.
Which is also funny because at the same time, we're also getting a Gotham Knights video game.
Which is the exact same premise.
Well, I think you can get away a little more with video games because it's interactive. You can play as some other characters, and you can still have a story that's good. I don't think that it relies so much on having the main Batman character in the Batman universe when it comes to games. I'm 100% with you on TVs and movies, though.
Like, just put Batman in it.
Well,
just put Batman in it. It is not a hard thing to do. Just find someone to play Batman and then put Batman in it.
Now, I also have to say, I think this is uniquely a Batman issue because for some reason,
it is.
Superman and Superman-related properties seem to be fine. Like Supergirl was fine.
Introducing Superman.
Without Superman. Exactly.
Well, I mean, yeah, it did fine without Superman, but then they put Superman in it, and it was even better.
But it was a cameo.
Because every once in a while, he popped into it.
Right, but it was a cameo, and it wasn't his, So, for some reason, it does seem to be kind of a uniquely Batman issue, to me anyway.
And I don't know. It blows my mind because you could do the most amazing, rich, long-running TV show if you just had a Batman TV show that stuck even just to the highlights of his 80-year comic book history. Like, a cornucopia of different things you could possibly do. But instead, we are obsessed with doing Batman shows without Batman.
Oh, that's interesting. So let's just say you were going to pick the best Batman story from each year. You would have 80 episodes.
Yes, even if you just went with a single issue from each year.
Right. And you could make 80 episodes. You could keep the same cast.
Yes.
And the same, or let's just say you make it like an animated series. Like, I don't know, Batman the Animated Series. And that was the awesome voiceovers.
That was the last Batman TV show we had that had Batman in it. Because like even Gotham, which was a good show, but I got super disinterested really quick because I realized very fast that all of these villains were going to be in their 30s when Batman was 8 years old. So by the time Batman started Batmaning, they were all going to be a bunch of geriatrics. And so it made no sense.
So it was kind of like an attempt at Smallville for Gotham, which is why they called it Gotham.
Yeah, except all the bad guys were grown-ass people, and Batman was still a child. So, I don't know. I'm just tired of this trend where we don't have Batman in Batman properties.
So, for those not familiar, Gotham Knights. In the wake of Bruce Wayne's murder, his rebellious adopted son forges an unlikely alliance with the children of Batman's enemies when they are all framed for killing the Caped Crusader. And as the city's most wanted criminals, this renegade band of misfits must fight to clear their names. But in a Gotham with no Dark Knight to protect it, the city descends into the most dangerous it's ever been.
You reading that makes me want to go watch that. You did a good job. That was excellent.
No. Josh is going to watch it.
No, I'm not.
He's not going to tell us. But
you have to watch it. You have to watch it.
I'm not going to watch it.
You have to.
And I'm putting a ban on the show.
No, you can't do that.
We're not going to review it. We're not going to.
Anyway, so yeah, it is debuting sometime in the 2022-2023 season on the CW. So moving on to one more TV-related thing. Over on AMC, a television show known for things such as Breaking Bad and The Walking Dead, comes Alan Wake. Alan Wake, a popular video game from Remedy Games, who is a studio known for games such as Max Payne, Quantum Break, Control. They had a game all the way back in the Xbox 360 days called Alan Wake, and it was a thriller type of game where just a mystery writer gets caught in one of his own stories. It's kind of a horror game. It is actually getting a sequel, just a recently announced sequel. But now we're apparently getting a TV show. Josh, Jason, have you ever played Alan Wake or know of Alan Wake?
I've only heard about Alan Wake in recent history as a remastered version of the original game was being published, and that the second Alan Wake was coming out, and this is news to me about the television show. So I do know that it's popular. There's a following. There was a lot of people who were excited when the remaster was coming out. So they're definitely catering to an audience. I just had not heard of this property before.
I'm kind of like Jason. I'm aware of the property. I'm a weenie, so I don't do a lot of scary games.
Admittedly, same.
It was definitely a creepy game. It was not like jump scary type of.
See, creepy is almost worse to me though.
That's
like eerie and creepy. No, I'm out. But no, I understand its huge following. I've seen the synopses of it, so I get it. I have personally not played it. It's long been known that video games have not translated well to live action movies, and we could go into a whole list
Super
of
Mario Brothers.
I mean, even worse than that.
Mortal Kombat.
But now we're starting to get more video games taking the TV show route. Obviously, Halo, which we'll be talking about at the end of this episode, but also we're getting The Last of Us into an HBO show. But now we're getting Alan Wake as a TV show. And should I be worried that they're going to ruin this?
So it makes sense to me that they're going a TV or limited series route, because in video games, especially story-driven video games, it takes a while. For example, I'm still working on Horizon, and I'm upwards of 60 some odd hours, and I'm only 40% of the way through the game, of the story. So it takes time to develop these stories. So a limited series that is connected to a video game, I think, makes more sense than a movie.
I hope so. And I mean, it is AMC. AMC knows how to make shows. Obviously, we'll see. I did play Alan Wake. It was a fantastic game. A little weird, a little clunky in the gameplay. It felt kind of repetitive, but the story was fantastic. So I'm super excited for Alan Wake 2, and I guess we'll see how this TV show goes. All right, so using that as a segue to actually talk about some video games. We have not talked about video games too much on this show.
There hasn't been a lot to talk about.
There has not been a lot to talk about, and that's kind of just the season that we're in. Usually video game news hits in waves starting in the summer months.
Yep.
But we have started getting some news, and so I want to take this opportunity to actually talk about that. So it was announced. Basically, the only game we have really been super excited for this year has been delayed. It was announced last week by Bethesda that they are making the decision to delay Starfield as well as Redfall, two games, into early 2023. So Starfield is basically being described by Bethesda as Skyrim in space, and they're saying it's going to have like a somehow Indiana Jones exploration vibe to it. Like, we haven't seen much about it yet, aside from a couple of like teaser trailers, but it should be a freaking awesome game.
But some internal memos and leaks were saying that they were essentially worried about a Cyberpunk 2077 deal. They did not want that.
Yeah, last year it was leaked that developers working on this game, they were worried that at the time when Cyberpunk was happening, that they were worried Starfield was going to go the same way.
Yeah,
and that was a year ago, and now it's only just now getting delayed. So
yeah, so don't get me wrong, Starfield is on my like top 3, the big ones for this year, like the ones I'm really looking forward to, like the ones I will take off work for a couple of days to play. So it's disappointing that it's being delayed. I personally am okay with video game delays.
Oh yeah.
I would rather you delay it than put out a broken game.
Yeah.
So it's a bummer. I'm okay with it. Looking forward to it.
So we have this list of things we're looking out for this year, just releases in the video games and movies and TV shows. We don't have that many games on our list to look out for this year, and like it was already a pretty light year in video games as far as our interests are concerned, and the fact that we're losing Starfield, I mean that there's not much else coming out this year.
Well, it's really bad for Xbox folks.
Yeah,
this was going to be essentially an Xbox exclusive that was going to be one of the only really big Xbox releases, and so that's.
I forgot it was an Xbox exclusive.
Yeah, it wasn't when they started making it, but
yeah.
It is now. Yeah. And so that's. Let's be real. We've talked about this before. I think it was the first episode. Xbox is not the same. Is not playing on the same level as Sony when it comes to in-house publications.
Yeah,
big exclusives. So the fact that they essentially have had to postpone their only one that was going to be released for this holiday season is, from a business standpoint, got to be a little scary for them.
Yeah. I said there's not much coming out this year. There are still other things, like PlayStation actually still has Forspoken coming out, a PlayStation exclusive. There are a couple other games. There's actually The Quarry. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correct. The Quarry. Another one of those butterfly effect games from the same developers as Until Dawn.
I like that one.
Yeah, there are still big games coming out this year. Hogwarts Legacy, one of those big,
But there isn't another big Xbox exclusive.
No more big Xbox exclusives. Mm-hmm. And yeah, anyway. So, speaking of video games and new release dates, Dead Space, the remake that was announced, I believe it was late last year, earlier this year, it has been given an official release date, coming out January 27th, 2023. So, not too long of a wait for that one. And I don't believe, Josh, you don't like scary things. But I did show, actually, you and Jason.
I was going to say, I was okay with it. That's interesting. And I'll put it to you this way. It was interesting enough that I've been keeping up with the remake news. And I've been watching their developer videos and things like that. And I mean, like, it looks good.
Yeah, so this is a remake, an official remake, but they're saying they're kind of building it story-wise and everything from the ground up. It is a game from EA, so it's been a while since EA's really had a hit. But Dead Space, if you're not unfamiliar with it, was a 2008 sci-fi horror game starring Isaac Clarke, an engineer who must battle a series of horrors known as necromorphs. And we got two other games, so Dead Space 2 and 3. Dead Space 3 kind of shed the horror element and just kind of went all in on the action adventure. This is a proper remake of the original Dead Space, so probably going back to the horror of the first game.
Oh, I think definitely.
Oh, yeah.
But and they're putting a lot of effort into it. So I'm wondering if the goal is to redo the entire franchise.
I would hope so, because Dead Space is probably one of my favorite games of all time. I'm not much of a horror person. Like, I don't like being scared, but it was such a well-made game and a fantastic story. Like, it's actually looking at, they turned the story, there was a lot of depth to the story, and they've actually turned it in, they've novelized it. I have a couple of the novels in the series. Like, it's fantastic story. fantastic games. So it's a well-deserved remake that we will be hopefully talking about when it comes out.
And it's not a remaster. Can't clarify that enough. Like, it is from the ground up. They are making a new game. It just happens to be a game that's already come out before.
Well, I was just thinking, I mean, are we talking remake as in, ground up? It's going to be precisely, though, the storyline and the action before? Or is it remake a la Final Fantasy VII, which has some of the major elements of the original Final Fantasy game, but it is definitely going in a
Different
tangent of the original story.
It does give me Final Fantasy VII Remake vibes, where it's going to be mostly the same story and same gameplay and everything, but it's going to be introducing a lot of new things at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm
if they had originally made this game today, this is what it would be.
And like, I recently replayed these games. Like,
they hold up.
Like, not remasters, like just the original games. They still look great. They still hold up. Like, they were still fantastic to play. All right, couple more video game stories just to round it out. Skull and Bones. Josh, you brought us this one. So Skull and Bones is a long in development hell video game that was originally started as an expansion to Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, which was a launch title for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, all the way back in 2013. So this game has been made, or has been in development for basically 10 years. But it was finally reworked in early development to be its own standalone game outside of Assassin's Creed. But it's basically just going to be a pirate game. You get to be a pirate.
Yeah, so Ubisoft did something that, to my knowledge, no other video game had ever really done before, especially not on this scale. They started polling the audience about what they wanted in future games. And it had things like, what settings would you like to see? What countries would you like? What time periods? And they even got into how much did you enjoy the pirate aspect of Black Flag? And apparently the responses were overwhelming that this could essentially, and when it released, they essentially, it was a trial run on, could this be an offshoot? Could this be a spin-off of the Assassin's Creed franchise? Could they do a pirate franchise? And everyone got super stoked about it. We got the first trailer in like 2017, I think is what it was. 2017, like 2018. So even that was 5 years ago.
First revealed by Ubisoft at E3 2017.
Yeah. So, and I don't even have a computer. That was off my
job.
That was off my
got
brain.
That locked away.
Yeah. This is one that I was really, really excited for because, like, to this day, Black Flag is still probably my favorite Assassin's Creed game. Like, by a good margin.
I'd say it's probably my second favorite.
Yeah. And it was one of those games where you could just completely ignore the main plot and just pirate.
Yeah.
And like, it was fun and it worked.
Jason, if you've ever played Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, highly recommend. Don't even care about the story. Just go be a pirate.
It's one of my goals, anyway, is to be a pirate. So I may check it out.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
So the fact that they've built a standalone game, they've started releasing screenshots again. This was in development so long, people forgot it existed. Like,
it was originally scheduled. So once it was unveiled in 2017, it was given a tentative release date of end of 2018. So obviously that's come and gone. It was delayed to 2019 and then March 2020 and then pandemic. And now it was then rescheduled for fiscal year ending March 2022. Well, guess what? That has come and gone. But the news that we're actually talking about is that a rating for it has appeared on a South Korean rating board. So it's typically games don't get ratings until they're done.
Yeah.
So the fact that this one has been given a rating hints that maybe we're actually finally going to get it.
I'm thinking holiday game. I'm thinking Christmas game.
I am on the Ubisoft website for Skull and Bones. Release date coming soon. Skull and Bones is rated RP. Rating pending.
Yeah. So yeah, it has not actually been officially announced yet, but the fact that it is showing up on ratings boards hints at good things to come. It's apparently still a real game. So moving on to one more little news nugget that Jason brought away. We're moving away from video games back into movies. Christopher Walken is joining Dune Part 2. Jason, talk about this one for us.
So this week, I found in Variety that Christopher Walken has been cast to play the Padishah Emperor, Shaddam IV, which...
First of all, it's Christopher Walken.
It's
Christopher.
right.
I can't do it. I'm not going to try. But I feel like you have to impersonate him every time his name comes up.
Well, I'm sorry that I didn't do the impersonation, but I even need to point out, I don't know about this casting choice.
So I was going to say, you are a huge Dune fan,
right?
Ever since you were a child,
right? Like it's multi-generational in our family. Like
those many
parents
years ago.
my parents enjoyed it, and now I do. And my brother and sister enjoys it. So, but he's not. He's the character that makes the universe move, and he's kind of the ultimate antagonist for Paul Atreides. At least in the first Dune. Having said that, I think up to a certain point, Christopher Walken was kind of a terrifying character actor. He was in some really, strange and violent roles in the past, but recently, I'd say in like the last 20, 25 years, he's often parodied himself and into, these really hilarious and funny roles, doing really kind of off the wall, but still endearing things like being the only character in Fatboy Slim Weapon of Choice video. Things like that. And I don't know if he's kind of undermined at this point that same weight that I think you'd need to have as playing the Emperor.
Whenever I think Christopher Walken, I always remember him as the exterminator in Mouse Hunt.
Now there's a classic. Nathan Lane, him, and who was the other scrawny little guy?
I forget.
Doesn't matter. But
look it up. Mouse Hunt.
You know me, I'm always looking for actors to have a renaissance.
Yeah.
Could this be, because to Jason's point, there was a time when he was a very serious actor. Could this be his return to serious?
Yeah,
acting?
So he's getting up there in age. So he is 79 years old. And I'm looking at his filmography. He has not had a huge part in several years. I mean, I'm looking at all these movies. He played a voice in The Jungle Book, Jon Favreau's Jungle Book, back in 2016. That was a voice role. But looking through like live action things, nothing significant that I'm seeing.
That's what I'm saying. I think he garnered a fair bit of success in his youth and his middle age, and then kind of realized that he could just do fun bits and music videos and things like that, and just enjoy his own fame. You know what I mean?
If you haven't seen him play the Continental on Saturday Night Live,
yeah,
that is hysterical, and I think that's when he really just started to be a comedic personality, and
he's good at it.
And it's funny as all get out. I think in one of our previous podcasts we mentioned the movie Click.
Yeah,
that one just came up. So all the way back in the most recent movies that I recognize on his filmography were Click in 2006, and then Hairspray in 2007. That was
comedic.
Both comedic.
Yeah. And so, but again, though, I don't feel like forgetting how to be a dramatic actor is a thing. I think you just quit getting offered dramatic roles. So,
and I'm not saying it can't be pulled off.
Yeah. I am intrigued.
That's a good word.
I am curious to see what it happens. Because you also got to remember, it's so many of these things are decisions by it's committee. Thank you. All of these things are decision by committee. So I mean, a dozen people had to think it was a good idea before they threw it into a $300 million sequel. So I'm excited. I'm on board. I'm on the Christopher Walken train. I'm excited to see it.
I've always been a proponent of giving people chances. I remember when Ben Affleck was announced as casting as Batman. I had a pretty good feeling that he'd do fine. There were a lot of people in my friend circle were naysayers.
Oh yeah,
and I was like, give it a chance. So when Robert Pattinson was cast as the Batman, I had to tell myself to give him the same chance because I was like, okay.
Oh,
and
no.
sure enough, he did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
So even here, I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. It could blow
and
up.
not because he doesn't have the skill, but because I think he's just kind of, played a particular type of character actor for the last, decade, 2 decades or so. So we'll see.
All right, so let's move on to some rumors and speculation. So first up, Bryce Dallas Howard is rumored to be directing the Fantastic Four movie for the MCU. On screen, we know her from, most recently, I guess, the Jurassic World movies.
Mm-hmm.
But behind the scenes, she is a fantastic director, and she actually filmed, what was it? It was either The Mandalorian or Boba Fett. I forget which series. Maybe
I think
both.
she had episodes of both.
Yeah, and those episodes were arguably some of the better ones.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to remember who her dad is. Her dad's Ron Howard.
Oh, shoot. I forgot about that connection.
Yeah, fame director. So, I mean, she's grown up around, in front of, behind cameras her entire life. And so, no, I adore Bryce Dallas Howard. I think she's wonderful in anything she chooses to do. She's just an industry savant. She can do anything she wants. And like you said, it's usually pretty darn good. So the original director was going to be the Spider-Man fella. What was his name?
John Watts.
John Watts. I was going to say John Hughes, which interestingly is the director that he pulled a lot of reference from for the Spider-Man movies, all the John Hughes movies from the 80s and whatnot. But
yeah, on our most recent episode of Eat Sleep, where we talked about how John Watts, previously attached to direct Fantastic Four, he wants to take a break from comic book movies, so he's actually backing out of Fantastic Four. But now it's looking like Disney and Marvel are looking to fill that hole soon. And Bryce Dallas Howard, if rumors are to be believed, she is the leading candidate. Not only behind the camera, she is actually possibly attached to the role of Sue Storm in front of the camera.
I don't know if I've ever heard of an actress, a female director, being in her own movie before. That's new to me.
That might be new. I'm sure it's probably happened. Like, I know directors oftentimes,
Clint Eastwood,
actors,
Mel
Eastwood.
Gibson.
Well, I was going to even on the TV front, like actors will often take a turn directing an episode.
Right,
of
Jonathan
TV shows.
Frakes.
It's pretty popular in TV,
But, like,
not so often.
for feature film.
Yeah,
that's actually a good
like
point.
as a primary character. I'm not talking about cameos or
Right.
Yeah,
That's a good
that'd
point.
be an interesting.
That's worth looking up.
Yes, I believe it is.
But yeah, because like you said, Clint Eastwood is famous for it.
As is
Mel Gibson does it a lot.
Mhm.
Ben Affleck, I
Right.
would say probably about half the time
Mhm.
that he directs something, he's usually the star. So I mean, it's
Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith. Yeah,
No, that's a side character.
So yeah, I mean, no confirmation yet. The rumor says that it is going to, if it is a real thing, going to be announced officially soon by Disney. But it makes sense because I mean, she is obviously previously attached to other Disney projects,
yeah.
and
Her
like you said, some of the highest
episodes
received
of
ones.
of The Mandalorian.
yeah. So
We're
I
just-
can confirm.
Excellent.
It was episodes of both series, so she did direct episodes of
Yep.
Mandalorian and Book of Boba
And
Fett.
Boba Fett, yeah.
So yeah, I great fit, I believe.
For it.
If
Both
it's not
director
her,
and actress.
if it's not
For
her
it.
or Jon Favreau, I'm going to be disappointed. Like,
See, that would be cool to get Jon Favreau back into
into
the directing chair.
Yeah.
I'd be for it.
one other rumor and speculation. There's actually a couple other ones I wanted to touch on, but for time, I guess we're just gonna skip them. Inhumans is possibly getting a reboot over on Disney Plus. Did you guys ever watch Inhumans?
No, but I do think this is tied to a spoiler from Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Yeah, and the announcement came out after the release of Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, which I think may have been influenced then by the reception of fans seeing that character and that actor in the movie. So I wonder if they kind
not
of
an official announcement.
rebooted
So
it.
this is still rumors.
Right, it is rumors. Sorry, the rumor. My apologies.
But yes, Anson Mount, he's kind of popping up all over the place all of a sudden, even though he was, I guess, previously unknown. Like, I'd never heard of him before.
Almost said he's everywhere all at once.
Was he in that?
No. I'm just saying.
Okay. So yeah, he is Captain Pike on the new Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I got it right.
Good job.
He played a role in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. I'm not going to tell you which one. So possibly, if this rumor is true, he will be showing up again in Humans. And Inhumans is an interesting one to get rebooted. It did not. I never watched it.
It bombed so hard and so instantly that I never watched it.
Yeah, like I don't even know what it's about. I did not care that much at all. So,
and the MCU just kind of ignores it. Like Marvel doesn't talk about it.
Yeah.
It's the Cars 2 of the MCU. Wait, better. It's the Planes of the MCU.
They made it Planes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not even on Disney Plus, and everything is on Disney Plus.
Anyway. All right.
What is the Daniel Craig?
Yeah, what are you
thing?
talking about, Daniel?
Let's talk about it. We're going to talk about it. All right, next rumor.
I know, like you were just like, we're going to talk about one more, and then you jumped down to Inhumans. I was like, that's what I wanted to
Before I prompt you guys about what this rumor is, I'm going to go ahead and say, do not mention who actually ends up playing this role in the movie, because it is a big spoiler. I'm not going to talk spoilers here. So, it was originally reported, or not reported, it was originally, Daniel Craig was originally picked as Mr. Fantastic and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, but he backed out because of COVID-related reasons.
Interesting.
So,
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Daniel Craig apparently was supposed to be in Doctor Strange 2.
So,
that puts a lot of our speculation to bed.
So, we had an off-mic conversation last episode about an article I had read where Daniel Craig is apparently open to playing a superhero role.
Yes.
Now that he's done with James Bond, because he just didn't want to have two franchise interests going at the same time, which I get it. He'd never get to do anything else. And it was a list of characters that they wanted him to play. I don't remember Reed Richards being on there. And I think at this point he might be a little too old for that. I think it still would have been really good, and that would have been really exciting to see. My favorite is still having him as Magneto when they finally introduce the mutants. I think that would be amazing. Because he's a little older, his maturity could come through in that role a little bit, but he's not old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they could get a lot of movies.
And Daniel Craig can definitely, he can pull off that polished look while also being downright dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean.
And top of my head, like, he's played a few characters kind of on the edge there. Like, he wasn't a great character in the original Tomb Raider, but I wouldn't have called him a bad guy either.
Yeah.
He just kind of acted against her interests, so we didn't really like him. But, like, it would be interesting to see him as a quote-unquote villain. I think that would be a lot of fun. So, man, that's interesting. I hadn't heard that rumor, but
yeah, it was.
I want him to do something in the
I don't
MCU.
want to say it was completely confirmed. It was. A lot of sources say it was true. He was the original pick, and he was in negotiations, but he backed out for COVID reasons.
I just think from a longevity standpoint and an age appropriateness standpoint, who they ended up going with is a better choice.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree.
Now learning that Daniel Craig, there's a good chance that he was the original pick for Richard Reeves. Reed Richards. So now hearing that Daniel Craig was the original pick for Mr. Fantastic, that kind of puts our speculation on what it meant for when the actual actor who played it meant about Marvel listening to its fans and whatnot. Because if the original casting was Daniel Craig, then it has nothing to do with Marvel listening to their fans initially. You know, I'm just saying that if that is the case, then, you know, maybe our speculation about how strongly fans' opinions mattered in this particular casting.
Yeah, I guess we'll never know, but
it's an interesting rumor. And you got to remember, Daniel Craig is a low-key nerd, right? Like, he's mentioned several times he loves video games. Like, he doesn't go out and party. He doesn't do anything. Like, he hangs out at his house. He watches musicals. He plays video games.
He's an extroverted introvert.
Yeah. I think it's great that he's willing to at least consider superhero roles.
I think it's kind of like the Keanu Reeves thing. Like, they're just trying to find the right role. Like, Keanu Reeves wants to be in the MCU. They just got to find the right one for him. I think same thing. They want an actor like Daniel Craig in there. They just got to find the right one.
Yeah.
Like the right role.
Yeah. Make it worth it.
So let's move into our reviews and discussion segment. I'm going to call it discussion because we don't really dive too deep most times into,
Yeah,
the
I
good
do
and the
want to
bad.
actually.
We talk about the story and everything.
Yeah.
We speculate about what's happening next. So I do want to call it just a discussion, but it is a review. So we're actually talking about episode 8 of season 1 of Paramount Plus's Halo, as well as episode 2 of season 1 of Paramount Plus's Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. We're just all up in Paramount Plus for some reason, even though we hate the app. Fix the app.
Fix the app.
It's so buggy. Fix the
The
app.
app is so bad.
Which one do you guys want to start with?
We can do Halo first.
Let's do Halo first. So we had just finished watching this episode together just before recording this episode. What initial takeaways?
For me, this was the best episode.
I thought it was an incredible episode.
Incredible.
Like, amazing, and it is dividing fans again. I don't think we've had fans this divided since he took his helmet off. But I mean, we were laughing. But I mean, that's a real thing, though. I mean, do we just get into it?
Why are we?
let's
Wait,
go.
first, I want to know what the division is about because that's strange to me.
Master Chief getting his V card punched
Master Chief is not a sexual character, and he went.
where
Okay.
he boldly went where no Spartan has gone before.
I don't understand why this is divisive, though.
Because it's just another example of the, and again, I say this as someone who doesn't have a problem with it.
Right.
It is just another example of a quote unquote massive character deviation from the games.
So these are probably coming from game players, Halo
Correct.
game players.
These are Halo
Okay.
game players, Halo diehards. And like I said, I can understand their complaint without agreeing with it. Or
It's the same complaint I had when he lunged at Halsey in that one episode because it felt out of character for him.
Yeah.
Like he was about to harm a quote unquote innocent bystander. So it's the same thing. Like this is just, it feels out of character for him. But again, I don't disagree with it because I think it was story wise. I think it was fine.
And that's the perfect way of putting it. At this point, from a narrative standpoint, just I am in, and it's I think it's what I said in the first episode that we reviewed on the show. If you just let go of the games and just watch the show for the show as the show, you'll have a great time. This is a great show. You just can't quit. You got to quit waiting for it to perfectly mesh up with the game. They're just not going to. And I feel like everything they've done so far in the season leading up to this has kind of been easing you into that fact of this is just not going to be your one-for-one carbon copy of the game. So, given everything that's come before it, I don't feel like this was a leap.
No.
Now, this is not the major point of the episode.
Yeah,
That
was a
funny-
very
It-
small
it was-
scene.
yeah.
Like, it was very quick.
There was some tenderness, some gentleness. There was like, okay, they clearly had some sort of relations, and that was it.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't even explicit in any way, shape,
Yeah,
or form.
So not a big part of the episode at all. But I want to talk about just how the episode. It was one of those. I don't want to call it perfect, but it was one of those episodes that just crescendos the entire time.
Yes.
Like it started off so like just nonchalant, like they're in a park just walking around, and it ends with just the
back
intensity
half.
just picked
Yeah.
up dramatically as the episode went on.
No, I mean, it's
Like
it's,
Halsey went.
So
went
there's
evil.
so many little things that made up the episode, and it's just we've gotten. I would say at this point we're to the conclusion of Halsey's arc. Like I would say we're essentially at the end. She essentially deploys Order 66
Yeah,
with
yeah.
if I can
on John.
yeah, like if we can splash a little Star Wars in there. But I mean, it's of course she had a backdoor built into the Spartans. Of course she did,
Yeah.
because that's who she is.
Yeah.
And so,
like Josh called it episodes ago, like she is a conniving, deceiving person. And at first I was like, I mean, maybe, but I feel like she's redeemable. No, she went all in.
yeah, and it's
She went all
like
in.
it's she put a shady secret order into the shady secret program. Like that's the levels of her subterfuge have no bounds. Like it's just there's always a deeper, darker secret with her. I don't know where it ends.
But conversely, her gem, her creme de la creme of programs, is the one that undermined her in this episode.
Which is what we said while we were watching it. Yeah.
I was like, this is the Cortana straight out of the games. Like, she's got Master Chief's back.
Yeah. She's 100% on board. And it's funny because they're all her little assistant dude, Halsey's little assistant guy, who's important but not quite important enough for me to remember his name.
Yeah.
He's just screaming about it and just oh, she did it. I told you she was going to do this, and they're acting surprised, and it's like, she's a clone of Halsey's brain. Of course she's going to betray you. Like, that's not this is not a character defect. Like, this is who she is.
I do want to know, though, why she ended up supporting John. I want to know that.
I think from a logistical standpoint, from a,
because they went out of their way to kind of to demonstrate it was out of a position of sentimentality, not out of logic, that she did this.
So I would argue that it was out of morality.
Yeah,
which Halsey cannot conceptualize. Halsey she's an amoral character. That doesn't mean inherently evil. That just means that she is not burdened by a sense of right and wrong.
She's all about the greater good, not the...
So
whatever she is determined is the greater good.
So she cannot... If she sees someone doing the right thing because it's the right thing, she interprets it as sentimentality. I don't think Cortana did it out of sentiment. I think she did it because she knows that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
She knows that John has done nothing wrong. That John, at the end of the day, wants to do the right thing. Versus Halsey, who is acting against orders, against any sort of moral code, and is trying to do what she wants to do just because that's what she wants to do. So I think it's actually excellent writing where Cortana does the right thing and Halsey can't even recognize it as morality because she has no sense of morality.
And I mean, we've seen throughout the show that Cortana has looked out for Master Chief the entire time.
And this isn't the first time she's been uneasy about what Halsey was requesting.
So I think it was definitely leading to this point. Like, it was not just a sudden decision to back.
No, agreed. But I want to know why. Why is that in there? Why is that part of her programming? That is not explained. Like, I don't understand.
I think we'll get it. I think we'll get that out.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's just one of my questions.
Yeah,
I'm not.
And I think it'll be an ongoing
It doesn't take
question.
away from it.
Yeah.
Because I liked it. I liked that she had his back. I liked it. It's one of those questions that I would like to know from a technical standpoint.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it may never get answered.
And I feel like they're fully aware that question has not been answered. So I think we'll get that answer soon.
I liked what is Covenant Girl's name? The Blessed One's name?
McKee, Charlie Murphy.
Yeah, McKee. I would argue she had the best character arc this entire episode.
Yeah, I was enthralled.
Like, I genuinely think she was on Team Human until right there at the end.
Yeah.
Until they came and reminded her of every terrible reason that she hated humanity in the first place.
And honestly, I don't even think that she did that out of hate for the humans. I think she kind of did that defensively.
Almost a reflexive survival.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a shame because, like, when they brought her into the artifact and they're trying to figure out what the heck is happening with John and where is he, she was genuinely she was genuinely upset. She was telling the truth. She I think at that point, if things hadn't gone to pot, I think she would have ended up being an ally.
From a viewer standpoint, from an objective point of view, I was understanding why they made those decisions. Why the UNSC made those decisions.
United Nations Space Command.
Yeah.
From just from a military and perspective point of view, I was understanding that until, for the first time, I saw Admiral Perengoski show any other emotion than frustration or just a flat, intimidating character. She derived joy from when the MP was stunning McKee, and she was in pain. Like, she smiled.
Oh, I didn't see that.
She absolutely had a half smile on the corner of her mouth.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then I was kind of admiring her a bit throughout the series up to that point, because I was like, she was consistently like making hard decisions. Yeah, a little dirty on her hands, but not anything like Halsey, nothing like that. And she was trying to balance being a good officer and then supporting Halsey. up until that point, I kind of liked her character. And then she smiled. I was like, oh, this is a sadistic little person. So,
No.
So I want to talk about the brutality of those final action sequences, specifically starting with where after Order 66 has been put in place, the two Spartans that we have not really gotten too much character depth on, when they punched the crap out of Kai and knocked her out. Like I was like, ooh, this is
like that was violent.
I was surprised she wasn't dead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was.
And I imagine if she wasn't augmented as well, she would.
Oh, she certainly would have died if she was a normal person.
like that was just literally the first punch. It got more intense from there when Master Chief actually started fighting with them.
Yeah,
like that was some good action.
That was really good. Yeah, it's I think this first season will go down in infamy for really not having much Covenant fighting going on. I'm thinking next episode is probably Fall of Reach, so they might go so hard that we forget about that. But having a 4-way Spartan throwdown, no holds barred, that was pretty intense. And they kind of set us up for it earlier by having Kai take part in obviously some sort of a strength competition.
Yeah.
Where she was working. So, I mean, like, they really hammered home before we got to this fight just how strong these Spartans are, even without their armor.
And also how different she had become from the other two. That's what I also hammered home.
Yeah. And it was amazing the entire way through it. I am officially to the point where I would like to see more of Kai.
Yeah. Especially
since Halsey kind of burned her right there at the end. Like she removed her from her board and everything.
Yeah.
So it's again another reaffirming step of Halsey is on Team Halsey, and anyone who cannot be used as a tool is essentially dead to her and completely expendable.
And the episode ended with so McKee actually flagged down. No, I guess it was Kai. She told the MPs to go stop Halsey from getting off from flying away in her ship. So, like, the UNSC is totally aware at this point that Halsey is essentially a traitor.
Yeah, gone rogue.
Yeah,
hard.
So, and we didn't get any resolution to that yet. So, like, that, assuming that's going to come in the next episode. But at the moment, Halsey is a fugitive. There was no Madrigal in this episode.
Well, actually, I thought about that. And
that's
I think
it was such a great episode.
Well, I kind of think the reason they did that in retrospect is you can't break up this episode without losing its momentum.
Yeah.
So they couldn't be interspersed with Madrigal. So maybe it was initially written where it was two stories that were running, side by side. But they realized that they were going to lose the momentum of this story that we watched tonight. So they just made the Madrigal story all one episode.
Yeah.
I wonder, probably not, but that's my theory.
Make a slightly weaker episode so that you can have an incredibly stronger episode immediately after.
Yeah. And this is the penultimate episode. So next week is the final episode of the season.
Plot twist, it's nothing but Madrigal. Next episode. We don't see anything else about the Chief until next season.
Yeah, so I brought that up because is there anything really negative about this episode?
Not off the top of my head.
Off the top of my head, I'm not thinking. I mentioned this while we were watching it. That final fight scene, the only way it could have been better is if he was wearing his armor. Because then it would have been full Spartan on Spartan.
I'm okay with him having the helmet off. I get it. I do wish he was wearing the armor a little more frequently.
And like, I'm not going to hold that against this episode or just the show in general, but I don't know. I
think if he was wearing the armor, they could not have beaten him the way that they did. I think that was a logistical choice for the movie or for the show.
To make sure he's outmatched.
To make sure that he was outmatched. Because I think if he was in his full armor, he would have won that fight.
Yeah. And, like I said, I'm not holding against that. Just at this point, the armor is so cool. Why can't we see it more?
Yeah.
I do agree with you.
Yeah.
I do agree with you.
It's too expensive to show.
Yeah. Anyway, so not a lot of negative thoughts. Want to move into scores. So I'm going to start. I didn't think I was going to get to this point after the first half of this season, but I think I'm going to go to a 5.
Wow.
Because I think actually we're starting to redeem some of the things that originally I disliked. I don't know. I think I'm going to do it. I reserve the right to go back down if next episode does not fulfill my fantasies, but I'm going to a 5.
Where am I at right now?
Yeah, everyone else, we were at a straight 4 across the board, but now I'm out of 5, and Jason and Josh are still out of 4. So where are you at now?
I mean, with the same caveat as you. I mean, the finale can always make or break a show. Case in point, Moon Knight. Oh, yeah. I mean, maybe I'm just riding the high right now, but I'm going to bump it up. I'm going to say 5 plasma nails out of 5.
I was trying to remember when there was a hardware nails in there, and then I remembered it was her fingernail. Right, yeah.
Which was gross, by the way.
It was.
We didn't mention that.
It was. We all cringed for about 30 seconds.
If there was a negative part of the episode, it was that. Just because it made me so uncomfortable.
I was still shivering after the scene. It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Jason. What about you?
So this did have some aspects that absolutely redeemed some previous episodes. I'm still kind of hesitant on a couple of the storylines, but I'm going to bump this up to a 4.25.
4.25. Okay. So when we are now standing across the board, when you average everything together, a 4.75
feels right.
That feels pretty good. Watch next episode suck. All right, so let's move on.
The fall hopes of Madrigal.
All right, so let's move on to Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. I'm getting it. I'm getting the name.
Star Trek on
so
Stranger
proud
Tides.
of you.
So we are 2 episodes in now. What do we think?
I love this show.
So the episode they were off on their first off-ship adventure. Well, I guess not. I guess
this was Uhura's.
Yeah.
First, Cadet Uhura. My father and I had to have a discussion about this because Dad.
Let's pause. Yes, so we actually watched this with our parents, who were the OG Star Trek fans.
Yeah, like even my mother, who is not a science fiction fan at all, she fell asleep in the original Star Wars. She got to go see the original Star Wars in theaters and fell asleep. So she wasn't tired; she just fell asleep. But she loved the original series. My dad loved the original series. Loved all the movies. So we got into not an argument. We had to find a point of clarity around, in this case, Cadet Uhura, because Dad was under the impression that her voyage began with Kirk, and by the end of the episode, we had reached the clarity of, at that point, she was a full member of Starfleet. This is, as they said in the first episode, the beginning of her cadet rotation before you're a fully fledged member of Starfleet. She's essentially a trainee.
Yeah.
At this point. So anyway, but this was a very Uhura-centric episode.
Yeah, I was going to say, it focused pretty heavily on what I would consider secondary characters.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not secondary characters. I don't know.
I mean, it's secondary in that you always consider the captain to be the primary.
Yeah. Like Spock,
character.
Captain, they're primary, but yeah.
But it's I think the show is better for it because they're doing good writing.
Yeah.
And as Jason always says, I will forgive almost everything else if there's good writing. Not that there's anything else to forgive. I was worried, so when we first watched episode 1, one of the things we talked about was the production value was through the roof.
It was just going to be for that one episode. Maybe.
Yeah, so that kind of led to the second worry. Well, did they blow the budget on the pilot to get you hooked? No, they didn't. The production value is still through the roof. It's still absolutely incredible. The effects, the set design, costuming, everything. I mean, good lord, just the captain's quarters has to cost a fortune as far as set design goes. So someone else say something, because I'm just going to keep saying it's amazing.
So they ventured on to this comment that they're trying to project away from the path of crashing into this planet that they're trying to save. They discovered that there is something that's keeping this comet on the path towards destruction.
Yeah.
So
it's not the hunk of rock they thought it was.
Yeah, so Spock and Uhura?
Mm-hmm.
And I forget who else was with them. 2 other people. I think actually Kirk was with them.
Kirk's dad?
A relative of Kirk. I don't think that's the right first name for Kirk's father. But
see, that's what I was thinking when they brought it's Samuel Kirk.
Okay. And then
Noonien Singh. Just so you know, the last name Noonien Singh has a long-running importance in the Star Trek universe. So it's important. He is the one that developed the character Khan. He is an ancestor of the man who created Data. So Noonien Singh is an important last name in Star Trek.
There you go.
And so she appears to be part of that legacy in some way.
Jason Summer dropping some deep cuts.
So anyway, they sent down this 4-man team onto this comet. I forget why I was saying this, but the cave that they ended up going to on this comet, just gorgeous backdrops, like just lit up and lights.
So from a nerd standpoint, I've watched this episode a couple times now. I'm trying to figure out how they filmed that.
Oh, I don't know.
Because there's no way it's a practical set.
Well, they have those new sets that are like all LED lights.
So I wondered if they did that. But
what are they called?
It's they use a projection technology. It's how they filmed The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
It's how they filmed The Batman. Where they set up these giant. Well, okay, on The Mandalorian it was projection technology. On The Batman they use massive LED screens, and so they could completely control the sky, everything. It was all done in camera. That's why it looks so good.
Yeah.
So anyway,
we were talking.
I was wondering if maybe
value.
it was that. Yeah. But then I looked at the floor. And there's live reflections on the floor from puddles and things like that. And I just don't know if that would have been possible with it. Anyway, so point is, production value is incredible.
Yeah.
Clearly cutting edge. Clearly Paramount's putting a lot of money into it. But from a plot standpoint, it ended up doing something that I think a lot of Star Trek shows have done. If you try to describe to someone what happened, it sounds cheesy and stupid.
Yeah.
But in the moment, it was really, really, really cool. And in this case, the solution to their problem was actually based in music. Which, again, if I just tell you that, it sounds stupid. But you've got to remember that music has been hailed for millennia as a universal language. And so everyone understands music. Generally speaking, to every human being on the planet, the same things sound good in music. And it's very mathematical.
When the characters realized that the key was musical tones and translating those to mathematical pieces of information, it immediately made me think of Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah.
Which is how we communicate in the movie with the aliens.
Right.
Is through music.
It is a universal language. And that development, that plot point it is just such a Star Trek-y thing to have, because it combines sentiment and science all at the same time.
Yeah. I think these past 2 episodes that I've watched with Strange New Worlds has made me feel like I'm watching Star Trek again, like Star Trek pre-2001 that it used to be.
Right. So that's actually, I was going to ask, that was going to be one of my questions for you is how is this comparing to Star Trek past? Like, is it holding up in the same quality and standards and the way you felt about all of them when you first watched them?
Well, as we said in our previous episode, there are many Star Trek series out. Some that have finished. There are some that are current. There are some that are still being talked about in development. And then we have, I think right now there's Strange New Worlds. And we have 2 cartoons, which Star Trek cartoons, Prodigy and Lower Decks, that are running right now. And recently, in the last 10, 15 years, the Star Trek that we have received, including Enterprise, they've been kind of more rooted in reality and kind of darker in feel, kind of missing the optimism, just the unbridled optimism that I think Star Trek often had. Somehow, Strange New Worlds has recaptured this. And I was telling Corey and or Josh earlier this week after we watched this episode, the first episode that we watched reminded me of the original series. And the second episode reminded me of The Next Generation. Because the first episode was dealing like straight on with societal, social issues, just kind of hammering some points home in its own Star Trek way. And the second episode was kind of more philosophical in dealing with, what is predestination? Does it exist? Is there a role? What's our role in that? Those kind of thoughts at the end of the episode. And that's very much a Next Generation type thing. So but I smiled.
Yeah.
along both of those episodes because it was
Like, this
Star
is a-
Trek.
this
It
is a
really felt
feel-good
like
show.
Star Trek.
Yeah, it's everything is, and we've talked about this before. Everything is dark and gritty, and don't get me wrong, I enjoy those a ton. Restore
Right.
Snyderverse, but just this, like you said, unbridled optimism. And I was reading an article on IGN where they interviewed one of the executive producers about the show, and super mild spoilers. The first 5 episodes are available for press review already. That was part of the press junket for it. So they were discussing kind of the first 5 episodes, and the producer was talking about how that was actually a big focus on this show. Was they were talking about what could they do to separate it from, for example, Discovery, which this is technically a spinoff of.
Right.
And they said they really wanted to get back to the original feel that, and Jason, correct me if I butcher his name, Gene Roddenberry
Spot on.
had gotten to, which was the idea was it was going to be essentially morality plays disguised in science fiction. And that every episode would have a blatant lesson that it's trying to teach without necessarily trying to tell you how to feel about it. But that they wanted it to be optimistic and feel good, and that at the end of the episode you should feel better and be thinking about what you could do to be better than you did at the beginning. And apparently that's going to be forever and always. Like, that is going to be the theme and the feel of the show, and I am so there for it. There's not a lot of shows that make me feel better. Like, it's kind of a weird thing. I'd never thought about it until we started watching this show together. But everything we watch weighs me down, man. Like, I get stressed out about the shows we're watching.
Yeah, it's heavy and and serious and
it's
makes
entertaining.
You, right. Yeah,
but like, it's
exhausting by the time you're done.
Yes, like
I like being weighed down.
Well, I mean, no, like, for example,
Everything I watch is dark.
we all just essentially rated Halo a 5. Like Jason's technically a 4.25, but whatever. In essence, we gave it a 5.
Well, if you round down mine, if you round it to a whole number, it's still a 4.
Which would put us at a 4.5. Anyway, so we essentially gave it a 5. We all are clearly enjoying it, right? We're having a good time. Once I'm done watching that show, though, I'm done. When I watch Star Trek, and just over this past 2 weeks, I have been trying to look at how I can be a better person. And that's a weird thing to take away from a TV show. But, like, that's how it makes you feel and how it makes you think. You want to be a better person when you're watching this, because that's the whole point of the show, is they're trying to tell you what things can be like if you try to do the right thing and try to be a good person, be the best person you can be. And so it's a weird sensation, but it's the first show I've watched in a long time where I'm thinking about the show long after I'm done watching it.
I agree
sticky.
with that.
It's sticky. It sticks to your soul a little bit.
It's a sticky show. I've been thinking about those it stays on your soul. It stays on your thoughts in really good ways. And I want to tell people to watch it. It's
Like,
important.
I got into not an argument, but I work in a commission based job, right? Money's on the line. And we got into it with another one of my colleagues at work, and I wasn't asking myself, how would the Master Chief solve this? I mean, I know how he'd solve it. I'd get fired and go to jail. But, like, what would Captain Pike do? And the answer is you're gonna go to this person and sit down and talk about it.
WWPD.
Yeah. So those bracelets will be available on eatsleepnerd.com. relatively soon, as soon as we open the store. But I don't know. I think this is the show the world needs right now. And I really hope that just tons of people watch it. So that's all I'll say.
Well, all right. I think I know where this is going. But let's do a score checkup.
Can I throw one more tidbit of information in there?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Somehow, I wasn't looking for this, but somehow this came across my feed. there was a character in the beginning of the episode, which was I don't remember the alien type, but the alien is blind but telepathic. It turns out that the character is played by the first legally blind actor on Star Trek. He's a Canadian. His name is Bruce Horrick, and that's kind of it's tantamount to what Star Trek is about: the inclusion of all types and all. God, there was such a good sentence and it just derailed. Anyway, but it's just kind of more of what Star Trek is about.
Good for Star Trek. Yeah, so we're currently sitting at 5s across the board after the first episode. I get the feeling that we're unchanged. Are we still at 5s across the board?
I'd give it a 6 if I could.
5 musical eggs out of 5.
We didn't even talk about the musical eggs, but sure. No. All right, we're going to stay. We're staying 5s across the board. So Star Trek Strange New Worlds is still our only currently perfect score on our spreadsheet of reviews. So that's saying something.
And it's undefeated. 2 episodes in a row.
2 episodes in a row. Yeah.
2.0 and go. That's not right.
After 6 things that we reviewed, that was a record. All right, so we're going to wrap up this episode. I get the feeling it's going to be a long one. Our timer right now is sitting right at 2 hours. We'll see what it's like after post-production. But any final thoughts as we look to wrap up episode 7 of Eat Sleep Nerd?
Go watch Strange New Worlds.
Well, if you can, go see Everything Everywhere All at Once too.
Yeah,
that one I think is just as important.
That one still needs support. That is a highly. I would even say underrated because it's still not getting traction. But
I think that's one that's going to blow up on video.
I hope so.
You know what I mean?
Especially after award season. I'm assuming once Oscars come around, it's going to get a lot of buzz. Anyway, so we're going to wrap this up. As always, please support the show by liking our posts on social media, sharing this podcast on social media, leaving us a 5-star review.
We're on all platforms.
Leaving a comment.
It's good.
Please tell your friends about us.
We sound great. Corey does an excellent job with the editing. You have no idea what it sounds like prior. Oh, my goodness.
He says that as he was talking over me while I was trying to wrap this up, but it's fine.
Well, that's what I do.
All right. Josh, you got a quote for us.
Hit it.